The next topic we wanted to talk about, and we're going to do this one quickly, Chris, because I really wanted to not talk about Elon Musk on this episode. And so we will not quite keep to our commitment, but we'll keep it brief, which is XAI, which is Elon Musk's AI something, whatever, that's sort of connected to X and Tesla, but a somewhat independent entity, released the newest version of its Grok frontier model. I must admit, I did not watch the presentation, so I will not comment on this as an expert. My understanding is it is roughly competitive with the latest frontier models on standard AI benchmarks. Not way ahead of them, not way behind them. So it is a very good model. But, Chris, I feel like this is kind of a bit of a big letdown because a very good model is no longer interesting, right? There are so many frontier models out there that are really very good and roughly competitive with each other that yet another one doesn't really shake the world, right? We already have, as well as GPT series, which has been the traditional leader. We have Gemini from Google. We have Llama from Meta. We have Anthropic. We have Mistral. We have so many, and of course, DeepSeek, which we were talking about a few weeks ago. And now Grok, which unlike DeepSeek, spent vast amounts of money, XAI spent vast amounts of money training this model, come up with another really very good model. What was amazing science fiction a year ago is just, and also ran today. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah, look, everyone is always quick to point out you can't bet against Elon. Has done amazing things. He launches rockets into the sky. He's built electric cars. But his personal life, that's the trouble. That's the problematic thing. More and more recently, I think his actual achievements are asymptoting. And I don't think it's because of his lack of ability. I think it's because of his lack of attention. The robo-taxis continues to be too little, too late. And I think Grok is kind of a half-hearted, diffused in focus type of attempt. His big reveal is a product and a model that isn't that good, especially compared to the state of the art. And on the live stream, and I mostly caught the tail end of it, was a lot of excuses of, it's still pretty rough, and if you check back in a week, it'll be better. And we wanted to launch the voice version, but we couldn't do that. If you check back in a little while, it'll be there. And it's just like, honestly, the three engineers I saw with him, they kind of looked like hostages. Honestly, they were just like worried what Elon was going to say and what he was going to promise on the live stream. Maybe I was projecting, maybe I was reading too much into it. I think his businesses are suffering. I think their brands are suffering. And there are actually protests now against Tesla. There are people who, I'm in a number of back channels where people are judging others for being on X, basically they're really literally saying it's like supporting anti-Semitism and fascism. Elon has a serious brand problem.
You
And
reckon?
his argument would be, the world is more important, saving the world is more important than my brand. I think it's gonna start feeling it at the stock price and in other places as well. So, look, he's smarter than any 10 or 50 people combined, and so he may be able to continue to coast on the talent of his teams and the partial attention of his brain. But I think he is struggling, and it's clear. And I think for all our sakes, I think he refocuses and gets back to business.
Well, here's a theory that I actually haven't heard floated before, although I'm sure it's not original. It's original to me. If you actually look at Elon's history of successes and failures, there's a pattern, and the pattern is his successes are generally in the physical world. He is amazing at kind of making things happen in the world with physical objects, with physical technology, atoms, not bits, that nobody has done before or nobody's been able to commercialize before. If I look at the achievements that I still, think are incredible from Elon Musk, I guess there are two and a half or three, I suppose. One of them is obviously Tesla, which kickstarted the EV revolution. The next is SpaceX, which has clearly restarted the space revolution and is clearly the preeminent company there. And then the half, because it sort of sits on the back of SpaceX, is Starlink, right? Physical things, that's what he's really good at. He's good at making things happen fast in the sort of physical engineering space. And the reason I mention this also in the context of Grok is when you look at, again, I'm not like deeply immersed in this story. My understanding is the amazing things Elon has done at XAI is get like massive GPU clusters spun up faster than anyone has ever done before. He goes in there, he sleeps in the data center, he does that Elon playbook, and their massive cluster is kind of a wonder. But then what do you do with the cluster? Then you're in the software and in the research space. And his track record there is much patchier, right? He was part of the PayPal mafia, but don't forget he was fired from PayPal. I don't think he was like one of the luminaries there. X is obviously a disaster. Full self-driving at Tesla is a running joke and, frankly, securities fraud at this point. And then we're looking at Grok, which is not inspiring. So it's hard to point at a massive software layer success that Elon Musk has had. And so in that sense, maybe it's not that surprising.
Cluster is the key word when it comes to Elon. All right. Actually, one last point. One last point on that. I heard that he just fired a bunch of people in the FDA that are overseeing neural interfaces and stuff that oversee his Neuralink.
Good example. Another amazing piece of hardware, right?
Well, in theory, but he just fired a bunch of oversight people who are overseeing that in the government, and I think he's also doing stuff that for the regulators and oversights for SpaceX. So the conflicts of interest we all knew are coming thick and fast already.